my jumping spider has changed colours. It may not be a she. So I've got a kind of a two-in-one video here. We're going to talk about my jumping spider and the issue of naming it, and also an update as to what's been going on, why there are no videos the last few weeks. Quite simply, I've been putting out fires. It all started with a leaking roof, which resulted in this room getting completely wet, and I'm having to strip it down, clean off black mold and all that stuff. We then got COVID, and I took on some work as well, which has been keeping me very busy. So everything's okay, I'm fine, the family's fine, we're just busy. But anyone who wants to keep up on the behind the scenes stuff, then join my Patreon community. You'll be able to get access to Discord, where I'm on there daily chatting to people, and you'll be up to date on what's happening behind the scenes and, you know, current projects and so on and so forth. For this video though, we are going to be taking a look at my jumping spider, and we're also going to talk a little bit about macro videography. So as you know, a few weeks ago I took these pictures of my jumping spider, and I also asked you, the great community here on YouTube, to name her. It was a her at that time, okay? However, here is an image of the spider now. She went into a molt, and she came out looking more like a male than a female, so now we might have to come up with some male names. But in order to show you a decent look at the spider, I'm going to have to get some video of it. So I thought I'd take you along for the ride of me setting up a shot for video rather than photography. The basic principles of macro videography is basically the same as photography, except you've got a few less options available to you. So we're going to set up a basic scene using my platypod and my background cards available from stewartwood.com. Link in the description if you want to help support the channel. And since using the platypod, I've been finding myself using the A5 cards more than the A6 card now as well. Right, so that is basically the basic setup. You've seen it all before. We have a super clamp on a tripod head that we can spin round depending on which side our subject is on, and a background card. Now for videography, we are going to need a light, and for that what we want to do is to place another super clamp onto the opposite side of our texture. Now luckily for me, I've already got lights set up because I've got a big massive light here with a big softbox, so the light is already okay, so I won't need to actually use this, but for demonstration purposes I will show you. And what we're going to do is, if you haven't got room for a massive light like I have here, then we're going to get one of these mini diffusers off of Amazon. There's a link in the description for this mini diffuser, and all we do is we place that onto our scene like so. So then all I've got to do now is get my light onto this side here coming through. For that I can use a lume cube. We have that coming through. This diffuser diffuses the light quite nicely. That is literally all you got to do for you to get a decent setup for video. Now of course I don't have to do that because I have the main light here that's going to light up our scene. So next we're going to need a tripod. I'm going to be using my Suri ST224 tripod. So I have adapted this tripod to take Manfrotto quick release plates. So instead of me having to mess around with an Arcus Swift plate, I can just do that. For video, I always fall back onto my Canon 100mm f2.8 L series lens because it has autofocus on it. The tracking is pretty good on the EOS R, and on a plus now, if I want to change the focus, I can just click on the back of the screen. And on the downside, my lower, my trusty lower I always use for photography, the focusing ring is a bit defective on it, which for photography doesn't really matter much because we're mostly using manual focus. But for video, it's an absolute nightmare to work with. So I do like to use my Canon lens for video. So for settings, for this particular shot that we're going to go, just a quick shot of our jumping spider, I'm going to be using 4K at 23.98 frames a second. That's essentially the frame rate that's used for cinema. And I use 24p for everything. We're going to use an f-stop of 2.8 to start with. We'll stop that down depending on the amount of available light available to us. I can't bump it up too much because you won't see what I'm doing, but I will show you the results of shooting this scene with the lights. And the native ISO for video on the EOS R is an ISO 400. Check your camera's manual to find out what your native ISO is. And yeah, that's all we got to do. So now we got to get this guy out. Now, I still haven't ideaed if it's male or female. It's looking like a male now because of the change in colour, but he is very, very skittish. So whereas before I could get Jumping Spider out, put him on the scene like we did last time, it's going to be quite hard to do it this time. So because of that, I'm going to get a small texture card. When the spider runs around, it'll run onto the texture card. I can lift the texture card up and either place him back in this enclosure or back onto the scene. I always have a nice little texture card ready just in case. So we need to find out where this little chappy is now. And you can see off there, off the initial shot of him in the enclosure, how the colour has changed. Let's get him out of the enclosure and see if we can get a clearer shot of him. So we know he's on that sign, so let's get that sign out first. He'll probably jump off to be out there. Oh no, he ain't. There we go. So there is our jumper. Let's place him like that so you can see. And again, all we're going to do is just offer him the scene and see if he'll go on it. And he jumped. Where he landed though is here. How quick he is. So I have him on the texture card now. Let's try it again, see if he'll go on. There he is, he's on the scene. Let's keep a close eye on him though, because he is, again, very, very skittish. I'm going to turn my overhead light on, okay? I'm going to get a bit bright, okay? But extra light for us to see. You know. So a classic case of he doesn't want to be photographed, does he? Let's try him once more, see if he'll go on. There he is. Look, I'm just going to highlight him with a lume cube just a little bit to get a better shot. That's, I'm going to put my f-stop up to 5.6. And you can see clearly there how his colour has changed. And that is something that can happen with jumping spiders. He's like a metallic green colour now. So he's very skittish, as you can see. He's jumping all over the place. So what I'm going to do, I'm not going to mess around. I'm just going to put him back in the enclosure. And this is something I want to talk about. So if your spider is jumping around like that, just don't bother trying to photograph him, because he's not going to let you. He's going to be all over the place. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk to you now about the hows and the whys of what's happened, while I show you some B-roll that I take to him over the weekend. What I will do, first of all, is I'll start handling him, get him more used to me so he knows I'm not a threat, and that will make it easier for me to get some shots. But as you can see here, this is a shot of the spider when we first had the spider, and it clearly looks like it's female. Whereas now, this is what the spider looks like. It clearly looks like it's a male. It's like a metallic green colour, which looks beautiful. So what happened is my spider went into molt. It stayed in there about 2 weeks, came out completely different, and it's almost like we got a completely different spider. The character has changed, the colours have changed. So down in the description below, I'd like you to help me name this spider again, but this time I want male names. Some names for a little boy would be probably more beneficial at this point. In the meantime, if you are a spider expert, then let me know in the comments below what you think the gender is. Is it male? Is it female? I'm leaning towards male now. But in a future video, maybe in a couple of weeks, we are going to photograph this spider. But the reason we're not doing it now is because he is just too skittish to work with. And if I continue to try and take a photo or more video of him, I may cause more harm than what is good. And at the end of the day, he is a pet jumping spider. So I just want to get that out there for you. That's it. Kind of a bit of a bummer video because he doesn't want to play ball. But I thought it was interesting to bring you along to show you what a skittish spider does. Because I say it more than once in a video that if it's skittish, don't bother. But most of the time, my spiders play ball. This one is not. So now I've got to go through the process of getting him used to me so that we can get a shoot. And we will be doing a shoot in the future, maybe in a couple of weeks, maybe over Christmas. That's it from this video. I want to thank my patrons for their continued support and their patience over the last couple of weeks where I've not been able to get content out because of one disaster after another. Delays. Hey, it's Christmas, so let's relax anyway. I want to thank you for getting to the end of this video, and as always, I'll see you on the next one.